can utilize blockchain to promote human rights, good governance, indigenous sovereignty, sustainability.
Very interesting journey that you've taken. I definitely want to tap into being trilingual,
Yeah.
but I can't help but focus on the UN mandated University for Peace in Costa Rica. That's where you did your graduate studies.
Yes, I did my graduate studies in international law and human rights. I heard you graduated law school, and I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yes.
And then I did my thesis on blockchain and the Sustainable Development Goals. So how you can utilize blockchain to promote human rights, good governance, indigenous sovereignty, sustainability.
How did you tie in human rights and blockchain?
Interestingly enough, it was through data sovereignty, indigenous data sovereignty, because there's all of these like indigenous stories, indigenous knowledge that is lost, or they, like it gets IP'd by the medical industry. And so how do you protect that knowledge? And it started there. Then there's also like what's it called, supply chain tracking. So making sure that like diamonds are free from, modern slavery, for like ensuring supply chains are clean, and like being able to trace something from, inception all the way to like delivery.
Yeah. There's a lot of I feel I shouldn't say there's a lot of. I've heard in my circles, sometimes people are threatened by technology, and especially, First Nations, indigenous communities. But here you're giving an example of how it could be beneficial in, keeping culture and maintaining culture. One of the things, okay, shameless plug, in our magazine that we did was we highlighted folks that had that were in artists that were in Gaza,
Oh, cool.
and all of this architecture and artistry that they had created, and how they were trying to preserve that digitally. But the way that they got that technology was from the war that was happening in Syria years before, and how people came together and created this platform where you could preserve that. So I really appreciate that you are looking at technology and how it can support people and
Yeah.
culture.
So one of the biggest things I was researching at the time was the building blocks program for the UNDP. So the UN Development Program had created this like pilot that allowed refugees in Jordan to receive aid, and they used blockchain for it, and they saved like over $100,000 a month in bank fees. And they did it as a pilot for like 10,000, but it got as big as like 100,000. And they opened it up even more. And one of the coolest things was I was working with at a blockchain dev shop at the time, and one of my buddies would tease me all about the SDGs all the time, and he ended up working in the building blocks program, and actually like doing, like, my thesis was actually being realized, because he like amended the smart contract and updated it all, and he's like, oh yeah, no, it's a real thing. I'm like, oh my God, like, and he just said it so casually, and I was like, you just blew my mind, because it was so hypothetical that it like could be scaled,
Yeah.
that it was cool to know that somebody was like working on it.
What coming from Costa Rica, were you born there, or?
Yes, I was born in Costa Rica. My mom's Peruvian and my dad's Chilean. So I'm a mix, and I have a stepfather who's Polish. So
Wow,
very
nice.
much like cultural like diversity is what I grew up with.
What drew you to Canada?
Um, my parents, they saw that it was better here, minus the cold. That was a very big shock for everybody.
I'm sure.
But in terms of like the quality of life, the education, is also, again, less of a, it's more secular here. It's very religious based in Costa Rica still. So all of those reasons. And my mom always wanted to study law, and it was just more opportunities to do that here than there were over there for her.
How long have you guys been here?
Oh my goodness, since I was like 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And so managing all these different languages, how was that?
Well, my parents were pretty strict on the Spanish at home. Like I wasn't allowed to really speak English, and because my mom was also learning English, so that's kind of the only times where we were allowed was when we were helping her. And then, like English obviously at school, Spanish at home, and then in high school I applied for like an exchange program, and out of all the countries, I wanted to go to Japan really badly. I got to go to France instead, which is still pretty good.
Yeah. And I really appreciate, one thing is knowing the language and to be able to communicate, but it's also like thinking differently.
Hmm.
And my mother tongue is Tamil, and of course, there, like any language, there are jokes or insights that are just not translatable.
Hmm.
So I feel like knowing these different languages also helps with um, finding solutions is not the right word, but looking for opportunities to collaborate
Hmm.
with different minded folks.
And also, yeah, it all leads back to like empathy, right? Like you understand the nuances of the language, so you can empathize with the people on the level that like you wouldn't be able to otherwise if you didn't understand. Like one of the things I had to do as a high school student was do a presentation on Canada. And there was no word for multiculturalism in France. They did not comprehend this at all. They were like, "You mean assimilation?" And I was like, "No, no, we accept all cultures." And they're like, "You lost me. Like, why can't they just, like all speak English or all
Yeah.
speak French?" And so that notion of like having a multicultural environment and being proud of that versus like an American melting pot or something like that. It was very much like one of the mandates. I was a Rotary exchange student, so we had to like promote our culture, and multiculturalism was the thing that I was like very passionate about, especially in France. And it was like the beginning of like tensions between Muslims and the French. There was like a bunch of like, unfortunate car bombing. So it was very much like, can you still celebrate other cultures in the face of adversity? And the answer is yes, because we're all empathetic human beings
Yeah.
that can do that.
Yeah. Where do you feel, Laura, when when you think about your son and the next generation and these sustainable development goals that we have as a society? And, I think about these conferences all these world leaders have and how we keep trying to like we're not even hitting
No.
basic target.
No, we're not.
Um,
And they can't agree.
they can't
Like this
agree.
COP recently was so bad. Like they just did not agree on anything. And it was like one of the first ones that like they didn't like they were still trying to like adopt like fossil fuels into the SDGs. And it's like that's not the no, you're supposed to,
Yeah.
defossilize. And
Where do you see the hope?
honestly, I see the hope in the way these generations are being taught. Like my son Dante goes to a Montessori school, and they have like a peace education center, and they have a little cultural center. So every like he's immersed in culture. He understands what, peace means. And that's kind of like at the UN University for Peace, it's the first thing we learn is like, what is peace? Is it the absence of war? Is it the, stillness of XYZ? And so he's already growing up with that, and that level of empathy is already present. Like, how can you expect people to agree at the international level if they can't even empathize with each other as human beings? Like, you have to start from the groundwork and build that foundation. And I feel like despite the loneliness epidemic, despite all of these things, like people are more in tune to, like the earth is getting warmer and all of these like bigger issues that, supersede squabbles and international lines.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel, yeah, there's a lot of natural crazy, like even in Canada, we haven't gotten snow usually during Christmas time.
Yeah.
Then there's like, we're going to have a huge dump of snow for.
The absence of fireflies in the summer. Like I used to
Oh,
live in the
yes.
countryside in Ontario, and like June was full of fireflies.
Yeah.
And now I'm like barely lucky if we see a couple.
Yeah.
So again, there's all of these like microcosms that have been building up and building up. And I have younger siblings, and they're way more aware of these issues than I was at their age. And now they're in their 20s, and they're like trying to be sustainable, and they're even aware of that word, that it's a thing now. So
Yeah.
it does give me hope. And again, this generation is way more change making than like millennials ever were.
Yes.
From what I see, like again, all the protests in Indonesia last year, and like we're all driven by like young people on Discord. That's insane. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives me that like hope that SDGs, again, we're reaching 2030. They're going to be rebranded to something else. Just like that like hope for humanity is still present.
Yes. Yeah. I really appreciate Web3 and things like Discord for that communication layer.
Hmm.
And even, as we're doing podcasts and stuff, like really getting your news. I know there's some negativity to that as well, but I appreciate that it's kind of like an unfiltered perspective.
Well, it's another thing for human rights. It's like the Tor network. A lot of Chinese activists would use the Tor network and like the Onion route to post like news of actually what was happening whenever there was a crisis in China. And so it's like, or even Twitter as like a news source, double-edged sword. But again, it was like the news is portraying this, but this is what the people are actually like seeing on the ground.
Yes.
So, and there's something like incredible about that.
Yeah.
Again, double-edged sword, but post-truth era, all that stuff.
Yes.
However,
A lot of work to be done, for
yes,
sure.
100%.
But the door is open for the possibilities. Yeah.
Yes.
Laura, thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to chat a lot more in the days ahead.
Yes.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.